I'd like to welcome you all here today on behalf of the family of the late Kenneth Allen Reid. He's been laid to rest, and we gathered today to pay tribute to his very well-lived life. We extend our sincere condolences to the family and to his friends who are present today, and also to those who are unable to attend. Ken was a proud and loving husband, father and grandfather. And our hearts go out to Pam and to his children and the grandchildren and their partners. Sean and Corey, Dion and Leon, Cooper, Bridie, Leela, Anna and Indy are all people whose lives have been enriched by the proud and caring presence of Ken. You've all felt the warmth of his loving care, and the grandchildren are going to light candles now to burn during this service as a reminder of the light that was cast by their grandfather Ken. And it's a symbol of his light which will go down through the generations. Oh, it works, it works. To comfort each other, to change our lives. The third candle we light in your memory for the times we laughed, the times we cried, the times we were angry with each other, the silly things you did, the caring and joy you gave us. The fourth candle represents the love and support that you gave us and that we'll hand on through the next generations. And the fifth candle we light for the love that your light will always shine as we enter this day of remembrance. We thank you for the gift that your living brought to each of us. I'm going to give you an outline of Ken's life, and then we'll hear tributes from family and friends. And at times like this, we think too, you can pick it up and light it from the others. Lovely, thank you. So we also think back to the generations that have gone before and to the heritage that they've left behind for the family and that will continue to be handed on. Those who went before Ken certainly set an example of hard work that he took up. As a bubbly personality, he was a very successful young paperboy at Williamstown Railway Station and the dockyard. When he took up his first real job after leaving school, he had to take a drop in salary. Ken had been born 81 years ago on December the 29th, 1942, in Hanmer Street, Williamstown, during the dark days of World War II. His family were his mum, Gwen, nee Williams, his dad, Albie, and little Ken, and then 8 years later, his younger brother, Graham. Ken went to kinder quite early so that mum could get back into the workforce. We think that might have been at Miss Mollin's school, which was at the back of Holy Trinity Church there. And it was here that Ken learned, among other things, how to be Father Christmas. And there's a great photo that you'll see later of little Ken in that role that he loved forever. School at Williamstown Primary number 1183 followed, and then Williamstown High School. And you'll see later another great photo of Ken in the lineup of the officers in the school cadets. Family life with the many relatives was busy and active. It was at family gatherings that he learned to play cards, an interest that he kept up until his very final days. After leaving school in 1959, Ken began his career in sales and marketing at Brown and Duro. After 17 years there, he moved to Joubert and Joubert until 1995, when they were taken over by Pacific Dunlop. His social life after he finished school was a fairly busy one, and it was at the very fondly remembered Arama Ballroom in Footscray that he asked a particular young lady for the last dance. They also met at a lacrosse club barbecue. It was the start of a lifelong romance. Ken and Pam Shaw married in 1968 at St Eanswyth's Church in Altona and had 2 children, Sean and Dione. They lived at 15 Grieve Parade, Altona, for many years and then moved to Williamstown. Pam's teaching career during their courtship and marriage days made for a very busy time in the family. Ken was also an active member of the Williamstown Lacrosse Club, and we're going to hear more about that later from people who were involved in that with him. So if I were to tell you everything about Ken and his life, we'd be here for days. So it's very fortunate that he wrote something of his own bio about 2 years ago for the reunion of the 1972 Australian lacrosse team, and it's a great summary of the life and times of the late Ken Reid. Ken's involvement with lacrosse didn't begin until after he'd left school. He was too busy with his paper round before that. So he began with the seniors, and that interest continued throughout his life. He passed on his love for the game. His son Sean, born in 1970, played lacrosse with Altona and Melbourne University and achieved a half blue for the sport and coached Williamstown girls lacrosse teams. Daughter Dione was born in 1973 and she played lacrosse with Williamstown and the University of Santa Barbara when she was there for 2 years on exchange. Ken did find time for other activities also. He considered himself to be a less than average golfer at Lawn Country Club and Coringal. And then in his later years, he also became very fond of croquet. Ken's involvement in the Yarra Beefsteak and Burgundy Club is another example of his commitment and his enthusiasm. He joined in 1980 at the invitation of the husbands of some of Pam's friends. He's a life member there, and there's a tribute to him in the Beefsteak and Burgundy history that's just been published. He was a member for 43 years, had held almost every committee position, and with Pam had attended 11 conventions. His world travel list is nothing short of amazing. He's done 35 cruises, visited 84 countries, 20 US states, 7 Canadian provinces, and every outback region of Australia. Most of that was with Pam and very often with the children. And who else but Ken and Pam would have gone round Australia in a sports car, sleeping in a 2-person tent? In 1993, he helped to set up the family business of Sean's Swim School. In 93 and 94, with Pam and Sean, they built the swim school complex at Hoppers Crossing. When Ken retired from his earlier career, he took a swim teacher's course and taught swimming for 20 years until he was age 72. He was so loved by all the students he taught and by the staff he worked with. He was instrumental and passionate about starting up the first adult classes along with Donna. Ken and Pam's grandchildren brought enormous delight. Sean and Corey's son Cooper did play lacrosse, but a competitive diving career took him across to another priority, and he now works at Caulfield Grammar School as head of the aquatic facility. Their daughters, Bridie and Lila, are dancers and swimmers, and Bridie is now studying science at Melbourne Uni, and Lila is in Year 8 at St Catherine's. Dione and Leon's daughter, Annie, has recently retired from lacrosse and diving, and she's gone back to dancing. Her sister Indy is this year's school captain at Williamstown High School, loves musical theatre, and has a wonderful soprano voice. Ken was immensely proud of all of them. And we're going to hear now from some of the family and friends who will pay tribute to the life of Ken.